This is Wealth BT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
New riders for integrated shield plans, or IPs, are out in the market, and they're significantly cheaper than the older ones. Should you switch your rider? The new riders will mean higher out-of-pocket expenses for you when you are hospitalized. It is hoped that by making you pay a larger share of the bill, you would think twice about over-consuming healthcare. And hopefully, this would dampen runaway costs and claims and help insurers achieve better profitability in their IP portfolios. And for us as policyholders, maybe fewer premium hikes. Will this work? Welcome to Wealth BT podcast, part of the BT Correspondents podcast family. I'm your host, Genevieve Cua, Wealth Editor of the Business Times. My guest today is Eddy Cheong, Chief Executive of insurance advisory firm Havent. Thank you for joining us, Eddy.
Hi, thank you, Genevieve.
So, Eddy, you've written an advisory on the new riders for your clients. What do you see as the most significant changes in terms of pricing or features?
Right. So in November last year, MOH has made some announcements on the new riders. And the background is that the riders has been increasing very rapidly, and there's a need to curb it. So the new riders changes coming from 1st April is that firstly, it can no longer cover the deductible, which means about 1,500 to 3,500 of the first layer of bills, depending on the ward type. Secondly, the co-payment cap is now raised from 3,000 to 6,000. But in exchange, you will see that the rider premiums will probably decrease about 30% to about 40%.
So what are you advising clients in terms of these riders? How should they frame or approach this decision?
Well, when we think about the riders, before we talking about that, I think it's also good to take a step back to look at the base plan. So typically, the base plan is where you first ask yourself, what is your healthcare expectations? Where do you want to be warded in the event of hospitalization? Is it private hospital, public hospitals? So once we settle on that, you get the base plan commensurate with the expectations, of course, within the affordability. Once you settle that, the next thing to consider is the rider. Okay, should you buy a rider? What's the main purpose of a rider? The rider is necessary if you want to lower your out-of-pocket expenses, your deductibles, your co-insurance. Okay, if you want to do that, then the rider comes in. However, the old rider is becoming very expensive, and that's the reason why there's an announcement on new riders changes. So if you find that old riders is expensive, you can switch to the new riders. One of the things to take note about riders is the medical history of the policyholders. If there is expectations of seeking medical treatment in the next 5 to 10 years, perhaps keeping the old rider might be more beneficial because you probably can gain more. Okay. However, if you are relatively healthy, you don't foresee needing medical treatment in the next 10 years, well, switching to a new rider will make more sense for you.
In what ways might policyholders be either better off or worse off with the new riders, apart from higher out-of-pocket? Might there be unintended consequences?
Yes. I think in the large schemes of things, the new rider is more beneficial. If a person is healthy, the cost savings every year, 30% of the premiums is quite significant. And people typically don't fall sick or need a hospital treatment every other year. Okay, maybe for some once in 10, 20 years. So you can imagine the amount of savings with the new riders. And when the claims comes, when there's a need hospitalization, then that's where you come up with the out-of-pocket expenses. So I think in general, the new rider is a good move. Okay, it brings down the cost. It provides out-of-pocket minimization. Well, I can think of some negative impact about the new riders because the first layer of bills cannot be covered. Just imagine private hospital, the first 3,500 cannot be claimed. Would people avoid seeking early treatment? Well, it might be because in their mind, if the bill is a small size, they cannot claim anything. They may delay until it becomes more serious. But I would think that maintaining a good health is a personal responsibility. All right. If there's a need for treatment, well, I encourage policyholders to go for it. But you find that perhaps private hospitalization cost is too expensive. There are always different avenues. You can go to the public hospital as a subsidized patient in B2, C ward. It is quite affordable. So seek treatment as early as possible.
So you've done a pretty thorough analysis for your clients, right? And I noticed that different insurers, they've sought to kind of enhance, add features here and there. How significant are these?
Yeah, that's a good point, Genevieve. Even though the 1st April change is targeted on the new riders, we noticed that many insurance companies actually make changes to the entire suite of IP. There are changes to the base plan, there are changes to the old riders, and also repricing of all their products for most of the insurance companies. So with all these changes, what we notice is that if you compare the lifetime premium of the old rider, the lifetime premium basically means the amount of premium you need to pay from age 1 to 100. The cost of the lifetime premium for old rider is about 30% higher than the new rider. So in G's, you can actually save about 30%. But because the premium of the base plan has also gone up, the overall impact of the savings, base plan plus a rider, could be just a single-digit savings to maybe 10% or so.
Another thing that we were talking about was the cancer coverage for drugs that are not on the cancer drug list. How have these changed with the new riders?
Okay, we noticed that there are some move by certain insurance company to restrict the cancer coverage on the new riders. So the background story is this. The IP plan provides coverage for treatment under cancer drug list. There might be treatment that's outside this cancer drug list. In the past, the old riders provides this additional coverage. But we noticed that there are one or two companies has begun to remove this cancer coverage from their riders' benefits. But what this means is that for these companies that remove it, they have offered the standalone cancer cover. For those who needs that, they can actually buy the extra to be bundled into their IP plans.
Still to come, medical cost inflation is expected to hit a mind-boggling 16.9% in 2026. What impact will the new riders have on this trend of higher cost and claims?
Market Focus Weekly, now hosted by Howie Lim. A sharp weekly deep dive into what's moving markets in Singapore and across the region. With analysts and market insiders to break down the forces shaping the week ahead. New episodes every Friday, powered by the journalism of the Business Times. Find Market Focus Weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to Wealth BT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Welcome back. Eddy, in your calculation of lifetime premiums, taking into account the base plan cost plus rider, whether new or old, and we've talked about because the base plans have actually gone up in price, that kind of reduces the saving from the new plan, new riders.
That's right.
On balance, how much do you expect that customers actually save on a lifetime premium basis?
I think it is probably about a single digit to maybe 10%, 20%. Because every insurance company are very different. They have different plans. So I think that is a rough estimation.
Some insurers have taken this step to specify partner hospitals in their plans. I can think of two, Prudential and Great Eastern. So by excluding the costlier hospitals like Mount Elizabeth, it may help to tamp down claims. So what are your thoughts on this?
This is a very interesting move. So basically, for those who seek private hospital coverage, now they have an option of having all the hospital covered, private hospital covered, or only restricted. Okay, so who will go for these restricted panels? I think that it would probably be more suitable for those who are comfortable to seek public hospitals for most of their hospitalization needs. But just in case they need to have access to private hospital, they can go for this preferred or panel doctors in the private hospitals. So I think that is probably the sweet spot for these consumers. When they do that, the premiums of these private hospitals IP is lower. But for those who actually wants a full range of private hospital plans, and they should go for those that covers everything.
How optimistic are you that these new riders would help to improve the profitability of IPs and dampen claims and slow the pace of premium increases?
Okay, that's a very interesting point. The medical inflation is projected to grow at 16.9%, as you mentioned earlier. And if you look at what are the key drivers of this medical inflation, there are a few structural drivers. First is the aging population. Okay, because of that, there's more claims. It is also due to medical technology, drug costs, and manpower costs. These are expensive, and these are causing the rise in medical. There's another component that is driving it, the behavioral aspects, whereby this is what we call the buffet syndrome.
Right.
Okay, because of the full rider, people tend to seek more treatment over servicing. So with the new rider, it basically removes that first layer where you need to bear the deductible cost. With this, it is actually trying to mitigate the buffet syndrome. So I think with the new riders, it does help to dampen consumption, and hopefully that will bring about a more sustainable pricing for the IP.
Thank you, Eddy, for coming in to share your insights.
Thank you, Genevieve.
On April 1, I wrote a piece that insurers were raising premiums of their base plans just as the new riders were rolled out. But last year, some insurers raised premiums too. So it will take some time before the new riders begin to shift behavior and help to shore up IP results. Meanwhile, it helps to keep in mind that insurance is a pooling of risks. In that pool, how you or your neighbor consumes healthcare will matter. As more people begin to use health services responsibly, the tide could finally turn towards more sustainable IPs. That's it for Wealth BT this week. BT Correspondents will be back next week with an episode on transport. This episode was produced by Howie Lim and Chai Pei Chie together with our editor, Clarissa Montero, and was written and presented by me. I'm Genevieve Cua. Thank you for listening.
This is a podcast by the Business Times. Find more BT podcasts at businesstimes.com.sg/podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is meant to provide general information only. SPH Media accepts no liability for loss arising from any reliance on the podcast or use of third parties' products and services. Please consult professional advisors for independent advice.